Just let the poor man go home already, Jesus Christ. Anyway, so I just finished watching the new Spider-Man movie, No Way Home, like a few minutes ago. No, I didn't see it in the cinemas. Who needs that when you can watch it for free illegally on the internet? What? But anyways, yeah, I had some thoughts about the film, and I wanted to say a couple of things about it. Some of which are good, some of which are bad. Now, before I actually start talking about the film, I just want to say two things. Number one, if you haven't seen No Way Home yet and want to watch it anytime soon, then click off this video right now to avoid spoilers. And number two, I don't actually think you even need to click off the video because, let's be honest, you've probably already seen or heard some major spoilers about it. One of which includes something about pizza time and werewolves.
I'm not the werewolf.
Because yeah, you just can't go on YouTube and expect to calmly listen to Johnny English's soundtrack without seeing millions of leaked footage and spoiler videos of Spider-Man No Way Home made by people who just want to annoy you. And it sure did annoy me because the main thing about the movie that pretty much everyone and their grandma is now talking about was revealed to me before I even got my chance to watch the goddamn movie. Anyways, you've been warned about spoilers, but since you still haven't clicked off yet, that must mean that you either watched the movie already or straight up don't care. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. Oh, what? Did you expect me to start by talking about my positives about the movie? Please! You're watching Potato Craft Facts. You know that's not gonna happen. You know, something about this film that really bothered me was that the first and second half felt like two completely different movies. And that the first half was absolute garbage while the second half was amazing. Somehow. You guys know that one comment I made a while ago when I first saw the trailer for this movie? I said this: I have a feeling this movie is either going to be amazing or abysmal. There's just no in between. Well, I've somehow managed to prove my statement correct, but also incorrect by making it true, but also false. Am I making any sense here?
I am so confused right now.
Alright, what I'm trying to say here is that the first hour or so of the movie was a pain to get through. The comedy was cringy as hell, the pacing felt very off. The whole multiverse thing felt incredibly forced and unnatural. It was just awful. But then once the Green Goblin revealed his motivation and started to blow stuff up and literally murder people, it got good. Like, it got really good. But that's to talk about for later in the video. We'll get there when we get there. Anyways, back to talking about the bad stuff. Why are random people attacking Spider-Man? Why the f would they do that? Quick question, if you just heard from a broadcast that there was a literal murderer with superpowers nearby, would you go after him? I mean, I guess it makes sense for the cops to do it since, well, Spidey and the police have never really been cool with one another in anything. But for random citizens to jump after him? What? Also this scene.
Dude! 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 Dude!
Stop it. Get some help.
So then they interrogate Peter and everyone close to him in a terribly paced and unfunny scene. Like, it's an interrogation scene, for God's sake. You don't need to try to make it funny. It just ends up being even more awkward. Right after all that, Peter gets sent to a super high-tech secure house or whatever and talks about how awful it is being broke. What? The next morning he goes back to school. A universally wanted criminal, and he goes to school. Yeah, sure, whatever. Flash is Peter's friend now? Okay. This would make more sense if in the previous movie he was shown to be a huge Spider-Man fan, and so when he learned that his idol was actually Peter, he stopped being a bully, kinda like in the comics. But here's the thing, he wasn't. Flash was never introduced as a Spider-Man fan. Not in the previous movies in this franchise, not in any MCU movie ever. That's more of a problem I have with Far From Home and Homecoming, and well, the entire MCU in that regard than it is with this movie, but still, we could have actually gotten a scene with Flash coming to a realization, deciding to change as a person, showing a side of him that isn't an asshole, and choosing to be that person. But no, this complete 180 on his character comes out of nowhere and we're supposed to just go with it. I know I might seem like I'm just nitpicking, and I am, but little things like these really bother me. The exact same thing happened in Far From Home when Peter just magically had a crush on MJ now despite never paying attention or even giving a shit about her in Homecoming. But anyways, yeah, then they try to get jobs but fail miserably, and honestly I kinda like this part. Oh wait, sorry, yeah, negativity. We see Flash Thompson again with his blonde sprayed hair looking like a dumbass. Peter asks Doctor Strange if he can delete everyone's memory about who Spider-Man is. He fucks up the spell, runs back home. You know, this is really starting to feel like I'm just explaining the entire plot, isn't it? So then Peter finds out that when he tampered with the spell, he actually let all of the supervillains from the multiverses out into this universe.
Power of the sun in the palm of my hand. It's gone.
Well, that's some totally normal dialogue right there, not forced at all. Okay, let's just get this out of the way. They ruined my boy Doc Ock. They ruined his character, they ruined his motivation. He does get a lot better as the movie goes along, but compared to how amazing he was in Spider-Man 2, here he feels kind of lame actually. First off, he's supposed to be a super genius, not a clueless f***ing idiot. They mostly played him off for laughs as a punching bag, and that really annoys me since he's basically my favorite Raimi villain and a fantastic character as well. Lizard and Sandman are just kind of there. Like at certain points I genuinely forgot they were even in the movie. Electro was surprisingly an improvement over his character in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, not just because he's not blue anymore, but character and motivation wise as well. Like I genuinely kind of understood his reasonings and plans here. But yeah, he's still not great or anything. Then we get to meet the Green Goblin, who is in my opinion the best villain of this movie, which means that I can finally move on to the good stuff. Took me long enough. The Green Goblin f***ing rules in this film. He's just as good as he was in Spider-Man 1, and that says it all. His plan is pretty clever and makes sense plot-wise. His dialogue is top-notch, and they didn't ruin his character. William Dafoe gives a performance that feels both phenomenal, but also effortless. And on top of being a fun and menacing antagonist, he's the one to essentially force Peter down a dark path and bring misery upon him. Or, well, he helps Peter bring misery upon himself. As for Tobey and Andrew, they were great here too, especially Andrew. Tobey's character still felt kind of forced, since nearly every second he was on screen was filled with Raimi memes and nostalgia bait, which I admittedly fell for but didn't let change my score in the movie. But Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker actually felt like a continuation of his character in the Amazing Spider-Man films, and not a meme machine that literally screams, "Hey look, we browsed r/Raimi memes before filming this movie, is that not clear yet?" But yeah, Andrew's Peter felt at his most organic here, while also maintaining quotable, hilarious, and chaotic all throughout. But it wasn't just this crackhead energy that made his character so great. He was also amazing in terms of genuine writing regarding emotion and heartfelt moments. Like, holy shit, the scene where the Green Goblin throws MJ off a tower as she nearly dies from falling and breaking her neck, just like how Gwen Stacy did in The Amazing Spider-Man 2, only for Andrew to jump at her, not letting the same thing happen to Tom's Peter, and his immediate emotional response. That was some good shit right there. Same thing with Tobey's Spider-Man. After seeing Tom get vengeful and give in into insanity as the Green Goblin starts taunting him about May's death, Tom then beating the living shit out of him as he grabs the glider and tries to literally murder him out of spite just for Tobey to step in and stop him. Oh my fucking god. That scene was phenomenal. It not only put more depth behind Tom's Peter, but also redeemed Tobey's. Since instead of getting him killed, he now saves Norman Osborn. And I feel like that's the best thing about this movie. It concludes all the other Spider-Man's unfinished stories in a way that feels forced and fanservice-y at first, but grows to become less of that and more of a goodbye to these amazing actors' portrayals of Spider-Man. It's done in such a way that feels like it was given just enough time without being overplayed too much. Tom Spidey still gets the main focus and character establishment, but the other Peters also get to share the screen and shine in a couple of scenes. And it's so satisfying to see Tom's Peter Parker move on in the end, learn his lesson, and decide to spare Norman's life, then proceed to sacrifice his own identity in order to save the world. It's such a simple direction the story chose to take, and yet I believe it's going to shape the world for future, better Spider-Man films. Ones that understand the character. Speaking of which... What I appreciate the most about this movie is that it sort of fixes most of my problems with the character of Peter Parker in both Homecoming and Far From Home. Because Peter Parker actually, finally, faces consequences for his own actions in this movie. He doesn't feel like an Iron Boy Jr. to me anymore because, well, he's not. The conflict here doesn't revolve around Iron Man. The villain's motivations don't connect to Tony Stark. And Peter Parker doesn't need to cling to some dead, rich, genius, billionaire, playboy, philanthropapu, whatever the hell, nobody cares. Peter's way of dealing with great power, realizing that it takes great responsibility to handle all that power, and understanding what it means to be Spider-Man comes from Aunt May's death. Now look, I'm gonna be completely honest here, I don't like this Aunt May. I never have. I don't think she's anything more than a misunderstood, exaggerated version of the character, and I don't give a shit about her. But her death? carved underneath by the words that define Spider-Man, with great power there must also come great responsibility, knowing that it's actually Peter's fault that she died, and that now he has to deal with the fact that being Spider-Man is hard, and that it's nothing but an endless cycle of failure and pain, only to keep moving and get back up for the innocent people he has to protect. That's powerful. That's Spider-Man. After 3 movies, all of which are titled Spider-Man, I finally actually felt like I was watching my favorite superhero of all time here. The one that shaped and defined my childhood and made me who I am. The one that gave me power, taught me responsibility, and made me fall in love with comic books and comic book movies. This movie felt like it heard and completely understood all the criticisms people, me included, have had with MCU Spidey, and decided that they needed to just start over from scratch, clean and simple, so that they can tell a more traditional Spider-Man story in the future. And honestly, I'm excited for that. I really am. And I haven't felt excited for a superhero movie since Spider-Verse 2 was first announced. It's kind of sad actually. But this movie genuinely got me hyped. Despite dragging me into a very dark place in the first half, after all that was over, it actually had me happy. Happy for Tom Holland, for John Watts, for every Spider-Man fan around the world. Which, like, if you aren't a Spider-Man fan or have never seen the previous adaptations, then yeah, this movie might feel a bit weird and overhyped, and as much as, well, it is, it's also a miracle for Spider-Man fans. I genuinely have high hopes for the future of Tom Holland's version of the character, and while I'm not expecting it to be in the same quality as like the Spectacular Spider-Man or anything, I still can't wait to see what they do with him next, because Spider-Man is finally back home. Hey, wait a minute, Spider-Man Back Home. You know, that would actually be a pretty cool title for the 4th movie, just saying. It would both make sense narratively and structurally from what I can guess, of course, and, you know, starting over. Back home? Okay, you get it. I'll shut up now. As much as I want to give this movie a 10 for bringing back Toby and Andrew, I have to think objectively, like a real film critic. Or whatever. So, 7 out of 10. Flawed, but still pretty good. Thank you for watching this video. I'm sorry if I sounded a bit sick. That's because, well, I am. But yeah, I would appreciate it if you told me what your thoughts on Spider-Man No Way Home are in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, like, whatever the hell. And good night. Because I really need to sleep now. It's like 12.